So it's an exciting day today for me. I'm finally going to get some new tyres on the wheels. Finding the tyres I want for this car actually proving really difficult. It's a noisy neighbourhood today, jeez. But anyway, I want the white lettering on the outside of the tyres so that it keeps that muscle car look. And to find any tyres that fit 14-inch rims that are fat at the rear and thin at the front, it's really difficult to find anything that has the same writing on the sides, including the same tread pattern. I haven't been able to find anything that has the exact same tread pattern, but I have found the BF Goodrich TAs, BF Goodrich radial TAs for the rears, which are 235 wide by 60 by 14, and they're going to keep a really fat tire in the rear. But then also we managed to find the BF Goodrich Advantage TAs for the fronts, which are a 185 by 70 by 14. So I keep a nice thin tyre on the front of the car so that steering is not going to be a massive issue, because right now it's like really heavy to steer, and that comes down to big wide tyres on the front. So it is going to be a daily. I want it to be easy to drive, and that's why I'm going thin. The front tyres, you'll see when we put them on, they don't have the white lettering on the sides where the rear ones do, but that's no big issue. I will white that out myself because it still keeps the BF Goodrich logo on one side with the TAs on the other. The rear tyres will say radials and the front tyres will say Advantage, but that's not the end of the world. Again, really difficult to find a muscle car tyre that fits rear and front, thin on the front, rear fats with the white lettering, etc. So pretty much I've ripped the wheels off. I've also taken the front shocks out completely because one thing I found was, and I really didn't notice this previously, I wasn't looking hard enough, the springs are different in the front, and I was wondering why the car would sit on a little bit of an angle to the right. It's got like a aftermarket shock on the left, and I think that's probably just the original spring on the right. And that's not good. So down at Burleigh, at Pedders Suspension, Burleigh Heads, that's where I picked up the front shocks. I'm taking these down to him today. I'm giving him the shock struts, and he's going to be inserting the front shocks for me, and he's ordered a set of front springs, which apparently he said that he can only source the lowered springs, so I guess the car's going to get lowered, which I'm not opposed to. I've got no issue with that. I'm actually kind of keen on looking at it really low. Although it's already low enough, it's going to be lower, so it's going to be sweet. So they're going to get sorted out. So new springs, new shocks will be inserted into that, and he will install that for me so I won't muff it up. The main reason I'm doing it actually is I don't have the tool required to remove this locking nut at the top of the suspension, and the new ones get installed in after they're in. I don't have that tool, so I'm just taking it back down to him. He can do that. The guys at, again, Burleigh Heads, Stocklands, Bridgestone Tyres, Burleigh Heads. Paul is the manager down there, I believe. Hope I got that right. I've been getting people's names wrong lately. He did a heck of a lot of work for me over the last few days trying to find the right tyres that I was looking for. He understood the need that I had with getting the right kind of tyres for this car. He's got a mad little old Corolla himself with a cool little turbo engine in it, and he's said that for many years, so he gets it. So he helped me out a lot, putting the time and effort in to try and find the tyres that will suit this car. And what he was able to do was find what we talked about just before, with the tyre widths at the back being fat and the front being thin, but also retaining the white walls and the same brand, which is hard to find. So My lift is almost here. I'm going to smash these into the car. We're going to drive down to Burleigh. We're going to get all this kind of stuff sorted. The suspension won't be finished today because he has to order the springs from Melbourne. So I'm going to pick them up at a later date. But today, regardless, we'll get the wheels back and I'll be a happy chappy. And a happy chappy I am. Just got back from getting the tyres on and look at them. So these are the two fronts, 185s. Look how fat the rears are. Oh man, they are gonna look epic. We got big hands and they are huge, so they are gonna look so good on there. So, like I said before, BF Goodrich Advantage TAs. I do have the whiteout pen to make these letters white, which I'll get around to doing pretty much right now, but I'll take these off and show you the rear ones. Surprisingly, they don't look too thin either. I thought there would have been a little bit more stretch in them, only being a 185, but they look pretty good. And there's the Goodrich radials. They look killer. The lettering just needs to be washed to have them come up nice and white. But they're a very, 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 very fat looking tyre. They're going to fit really nice in this car, especially when it's lowered just a little bit. Another 30 mils is going to be very, very sweet. So I'm going to take the front tyre up to the bench and start working on the lettering. And there you have it. One whited out word on the first tyre. I still have to do the word advantage and the letters TA. This is a timely process. I'm going to cut here and you'll see me at the end. It's going to take a long time. That took 20 minutes. It would take a shorter amount of time, but the actual lettering has got these little grooves in it, so it doesn't allow the pen to kind of work quite how I wanted it to. So I have to kind of dab the pen ink into the tyre. But not a problem. It's just going to take a bit longer. They're coming up really good, and I'm happy with the way that looks. So I'm going to finish doing this, and we'll see you at the end. And we're done. Writing on the first tyre has been completed, and yeah, it's turned out really, really cool. There's one little bit I just need to touch up. Where was it? Right there. Just kind of scratching off that excess. Just with a little blade. Just to tidy up that edge. That's better. Now it's going to suit the rest of the car. Alright, get the other one done, and then you know, the sucky thing is I can't actually put these up on the car because the suspension is still at pedders, waiting for the springs to arrive, but I can put the rear ones on, except I can't put them on and then drop the car down because it's still all being held up on jacks, and there's no point in me putting the car back down right now because I've still got other stuff to do to it. But I'll get the other tyre written up, we'll put the rear ones on, and yeah, see what it looks like. These are the two fronts, after I've painted the letters on the side. They're looking very, very schmick. The rears I've put on because they're able to go on now. Again, they're looking very, very cool. The These tyres are just perfect for this car, I think. They're so fat, with a capital F. From the back, it's going to look very, very mean. Right now it's up on jack stands and the rear diff is just hanging, so there's a massive amount of gap there. That'll close up a little bit when it goes back down. So that's the tyres on, which I'm very, very happy with. That's a big step out of the way. I now have to put the guards in place here, or the stone and debris guards under the panels. So I did go and buy myself some of these little, what are they called? 2 captive nuts. All right. So because there's no access from the other side within the door panel, I can only get at it and install it from this side. I need to use these, which clips onto the sheet metal with a hole in the middle, and then it's got the nut head on the other side of it. So all I need to do is get a bolt with a washer, push it through, and it'll hold the panels on. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second because I'm really bad at explaining everything. Alrighty, so under here, there's a hole there and a hole there, and they are for that hole and that hole. So pretty much what happens is this gets installed like so to roughly match that little tiny opening there. Same with this one. One doesn't want to stay in place, so we'll just squish it a bit. Alright, so that's now in. Same with this one. A bit hard to do with one hand, but basically that panel goes up underneath there. And bolts, I can't do this with one hand. You see what I'm getting at, right? I'm gonna do it, and I'll be back once it's done. And there it is. One stone guard thingy-bob in place. There is a bit of a gap here, because there was an original rubber on there that went in between the guard and the panel. Until I find that rubber, or I'm able to find something that works in its place, I'm just going to leave that there as is, and then when I do find something, I'll undo these 2 bolts, install the piece of rubber, and then reinstall it. It's very, very simple. I might even be able to use some of that rear boot hatch rubber seal that I used. Might give that a go and see if that takes up that gap nicely. For now though, that's another piece of the checklist. Sweet. So I can't sit still, and there's a job that I've been meaning to do for a while, which is making up a bracket to find a place for the ECU to live. Right now it's just kind of been sitting on the floor, kind of getting thrown around wherever I see fit while I'm working on the car. But there is an extruded kind of bulge coming out of the firewall here, there and there. And what I'm hoping to do is actually make a bracket so that 2 bolts will actually bolt in there, and a plate will come out about the width or the length of the ECU, and hopefully sit on a plate kind of like that. It's a bit hard to kind of explain while there's no plate there, but it might be a bit floppy like this, but if it is, I'll put some reinforcement triangles in the plate. But I've kind of quickly mocked it up. I'll cut it up and hopefully you can follow what I'm doing. I'm just sick of the ECU laying around. It needs to kind of be up out of the way where we can't see it, but I still want access to it if I need it. So I don't want to go hide it under carpet or anything. And I've got plenty of room up here at the moment, given I've pulled out the whole air conditioning and heating system. So let's continue cutting up this bracket. Typical bend measuring. These are the 2 holes that will be cut to bolt into the firewall. So that's the firewall there. This piece here will be bent down, and this will be the plate that the ECU sits on. There's also a bolt here that actually connects to the ECU on the side, So I'm going to keep that little tiny hole there just for the sake of actually mounting the ECU firmly in place on this bracket. I might even put some kind of, I don't know if I need to put soft material or not down. I'll work that out once it's in place, see if it knocks around a bit. But I do have the bolt hole there to bolt it into place if I need be. So I'm just going to cut through all my little lines here, cut this whole piece out, and then it's just going to be a matter of bending up the shapes, the sidewalls, and fingers crossed I get it first time. I probably won't, but we'll see how we go. And there we have a little seat for the ECU to live. So let's go see if this fits in. If it does, we're good to go. All right, so it's very, very close, except this bottom part here, right there on the gearbox tunnel, is just touching this lip. So I'm just going to lift this up a bit higher, grind a bit out, and we'll have clearance. There's the archway. That should fit. Much better. All right, so that's now the bracket drying after getting a layer of black paint. Just matte, it's fine. I don't need to have any kind of special paint on there. So that's going to go up underneath the dash there. I actually was pretty lucky. I made it tight enough so the ECU kind of just squeezes into those two side panels and sits in there real firm. So as soon as that's dried, we're going to put it in. All right, so the plate is now up in there. But yeah, the bracket works really well. It's pretty strong, which is good. I was thinking I might have to put some extra support braces here, but I won't. Let's see if the ECU fits in place. And it does. And it's real solid in there too. Like, as in, apart from that little bit of wobble, which is not a problem, it squishes in real firm, so that's not going anywhere. I think that's a big success. If I ever need to move it later, I can, because there's only 2 bolts holding it on. It's not the end of the world if I need to find space for something else down there. But for now, it's definitely a thing. So I'm pretty happy. The wires are not, too bad out of place. I'm kind of happy just leaving that there, because once the stereo goes in place here, it'll probably cover up a little bit of that anyways, and I'll work something out there. I still want to put a panel that goes from here down a little bit to maybe make use of these screws here and make a panel that goes from there to there, so it's kind of unseen, which might help a lot too. But that's really good. ECU is now up out of the place and has a home, and it's still accessible. Yeehaw! And we are back. The side panel things are in there. A few other jobs I did. It's been a day or two since I made that last little clip. Since then, I was able to get the suspension that I sent to Pedders back. And it is installed. It was a very, very quick install. I thought I wouldn't video it just because it's really, really kind of boring and there's not much to see when it comes to putting some suspension in. But this is the level, the height, the gap that I have in the rear with the new suspension. It is slightly lowered, nothing major. You can see there's like a 2-finger gap all the way around the arch now. So these wheels and tires really do make this wheel arch equally filled, which I think is really important. They don't come out too wide from the car. They actually don't come out past the guard, which is really good, but they do fill the rear space, which is sweet. The fronts are also in, and again, a really nice height. The white lettering on the tires look absolutely awesome. I'm very happy that I managed to get some white lettering on them because they look sick. I think it really suits the car, the black and white theme I'm trying to go with. So the suspension, I wonder if I can actually turn the light on and show you under there. All right, just like that, the light is on. Let's get under this dirty front end. Okay, so new tyres are on. You can't really see up under there, or you kind of can. The new springs are in. They are Pedders Sports Rider suspension, front suspension and springs. They fit in really, really well. There's no slack in the spring when you lift the car off the stands. They don't fall out of any kind of plates or anything, which is really, really sweet. I need to, I got lazy and I didn't actually put this line back on that bracket, so I've got to do that. So pretty much the front shocks are done. They're in place and it's really, really good. Obviously, shocks are doing what they do. There's no bounce in the car anymore, which is really sweet. So the tyres are in, the shocks are on. The ride height is looking really good. I'm really, 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 really happy with the way these are all coming out. So happy days with these. Same with the rear. The springs. Oh, you can't see from here. Damn. Oh, you kind of can see the springs back there. Yeah, so the springs went in really well. They fit the seats as well, and the top hats where they bolt up. They're not bolt up, but sit up in place. Really happy. Really happy with the way they come out. I am waiting on the seats to get done. Which I guess brings me to what's left to do with this car before it's registerable. Now that I have new tyres all round, new suspension all round, the engine's running really well, as I'm really happy with. I don't have a sound system in it yet. Like, I don't have a head unit and speakers. I'll get around to doing that later. That's not a necessity for roadworthy anyway. The car will have another good cut and buff once it's been registered. I managed to fit the chrome piece to the front. The chrome piece was almost perfect, but it has been dented before or bent, which has left this little dent mark. I can deal with that. So that's been put in place. The dash is pretty much complete. I might redo the dash one day when I could be bothered and just make it a bit nicer, but for now it'll definitely work for rego and whatnot. So what's left on this car to do is the seats. Like I said, they're in the process of getting done. I won't have much footage on the seats actually getting trimmed, but we'll definitely see the end result. And then finally, literally the last final piece of this puzzle is, I've got to tidy up this tail end as well. I need a rear hatch lock. And also, I need the rear catch that bolts up to those two bolts. So the catch piece that drops down, that has the little loop in it, that grabs this, and the lock. That is the last piece of this whole car that I need to find. And what a pain in the butt. I guess if anyone does have these pieces that they're not using, you're more than welcome to leave a comment and let me know, because I'll probably grab them off you. That is legitimately it. That needs to stay down before I can drive it around on the road. I do need a lock for this fuel door. I do have a lock for the fuel door, but I don't have the correct key. So I'm thinking of taking that lock to a locksmith and seeing what they can do to either rebarrel it or something. I don't know what can be done. At the very worst, all I need to do is buy a new lock off eBay that comes with a key. It's about 60 bucks, but I don't know if I want to spend the money again. But I'm so close that I think I probably will do anything at the moment to get this car finished. And also just this last, I don't know why that's poked out for. Oh yeah, I got to readjust this trim a little bit. That needs to just pop back in there. And this piece I never actually put right up into that gap, so I have to readjust that. And then this piece I still don't have either. It's really windy outside. So, I guess for wheels, tyres and suspension, it's complete. And that's going to end this video. We are so close to getting it finished. So I hope you are enjoying watching you know, me blabble on about this car and doing the little things I've been doing to it. We're so close to getting it finished. I don't know what the next car is going to be, but I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be a Toyota. I'll see you next time, hopefully with a car that's registered.